Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would answer one of the frequent questions I've been getting lately, and that's when are we going to see you max again on your classic lifts? I want to know where your squat, your bench, your deadlift, and all of that stuff is. And what I would say to that is that it doesn't matter right now, right? It doesn't matter right now. You have to understand how this training system works. The way this training system works is that we don't do the same variation for a max for long periods of time, and that way we don't end up getting beat up by it. And what we are doing is doing close variations of these lifts with a wide variety of max effort movements, because the idea is that there will be some carryover, and by doing all these different variations, we avoid, number one, the law of accommodation. Number two, it's training yourself to push through all these different angles with maximum force. And that's one of the things you have to remember, is that by changing chain weights, changing band weights, rotating through these different things, and sometimes even rotating through bars, heights, like even pulling from a deficit or small block pulls, various things. By changing all of this up, you're changing not only the strength curve, but you're fighting against awkward bar paths. And so the end result of a lot of that is that you get better at dealing with it if you're going to misgroove, because that's also a big concern when you're hitting max lifts, is number one, misgrooving a lift. So by doing all these variations, you have strength through sometimes when your bar path gets an inch or two out of the normal. And the whole idea here is that as long as your general full range of motion strength is up, you're building the support musculature and everything on these big lifts, that it will transfer over to the close variations, because they are essentially the same movement pattern. But again, oftentimes we're doing variations that train a different strength curve, or in some cases are even easier to recover from, right? By doing box squats instead of free squats, they are easier to recover from, and they have more explosiveness. They have a higher rate of force generation when studies have looked at it. So in doing it this way, I'm following the system the way that it's written. And what people need to remember is that it's not being done to mask strength. It's not being done to hide strength, because you guys can see what I'm lifting. And because everything is standardized, everything is color-coded, calibrated plates. My chains are all standardized. I tell you guys what they weigh, and anyone could look at the chain sizes and look at rigging numbers and find out that they could actually estimate my chain weights within a pound or two just by looking at what's on the camera, once you realize I live in America and that chains are standardized. And for those who are curious, the bigger chains you're seeing are 5/8 chain, the smaller chains are 1/2 inch chain, and I have 5 feet lengths of chain. Now I'm coiling either double or triple over depending on what lift I'm doing, but those chains are 5 foot lengths. The estimate, and this is going to be off by an ounce or two, the estimates for a 5 foot long section of 1/2 inch chain is 12 pounds. It's actually 12.1. All right. The weight of the other chains is 19. So 5/8 chain usually weighs about 19 pounds for a 5 foot section. So when you have that math, you know what my chains weigh. My bands are standardized. They're Rogue. Rogue actually has advertised weights for all these color-coded bands. You can go to their website. If you guys look, you can see the Rogue written on the bands a lot of times on some of the angles. The bands are standardized. So anyone could look at this, and you could go look at any person, any other power lifter who trains these same lifts, and see what their numbers look like. In other words, they're going to be pretty similar. If two guys squat 500 pounds, they're going to have a very similar box squat against 100 pounds of band tension. They're going to have a very similar box squat against 80 pounds of chains. They're going to be real close to each other. So it's not like there's any ambiguity happening here. It really isn't. And this is stuff that it's not me who says this. This is what the guys who train and coach these systems say. So this isn't about my opinion. It's not about what I say. It's about looking at what those guys say, and they'll tell you all that. So when the coaches who work with these methods are saying that, then you should be able to reference them. If you're legitimately curious or think that something's being hidden, you can go check it. It's not like I'm able to hide any of it. I'm using pretty standardized equipment no tricky camera angles. You guys can see my entire body, top to bottom. You can see the entire barbell, what's attached to it in every lift. There's no funny business going on. It's clearly visible. And that's what I'm doing. And the other thing to remember is that I'm building strength right now. I'm building strength. I'm at a strength building phase. I'm doing a lot of other lifts that hypertrophy different things, because outside of your neural efficiency for the max strength and then the speed end, which I'm training with the variations, the next biggest factor obviously in strength is your hypertrophy, particularly on the bench press and the squat. The amount of muscle you have relative to your height. Well, you guys know my height. We've already checked that. You guys have seen former DEXA scans. You know my current body weight. I mean, people can figure up their own estimates of how strong they think I should be. Right? It's not that difficult. It's not like anything isn't publicly visible. So the thing to remember is that I'm doing a lot of hypertrophy work, and not necessarily bodybuilder, but powerlifter hypertrophy work. Doing a lot of training volume, working on weak points, everything that seems to be a weakness, I'm coming in and hitting it with extra training volume, with assistance movements, accessory movements. So I'm in a situation to where I'm pushing against the heaviest weights I can handle on these variations, and then I'm training a lot of volume behind all of it and doing speed work. I'm not worried about what my maxes are right now, because they're going to go up eventually. And it would be silly to be testing them all the time when these different variations will improve my strength curves more with less accommodation. There's no point in me coming in and trying to test them all the time. Do you know why? Because they're not going to have gone up much. That's the point that people have to understand also. I'm an advanced lifter, not blasting gear. If right now, at this point in the year versus last time I tested them, if I come in and my bench is up 25 pounds and my squat is up 50 pounds, and they're not, I can assure you they're not. Well, let me get that clear. They aren't. And hopefully everyone realizes that. Then people who are saying, oh, you must be blasting gear, they would be right. Because the point that I'm starting at, what my lifts are right now, with a lack of real body weight gain and not using anabolics, it is probably biologically impossible for me to see significant strength increases on those lifts right now. If they were up that much, we could argue that this training system is better than steroids. And I don't know of any training system that's better than steroids. But that would be a fair assessment. And this system works, and it's a good system, but it's not that good. It doesn't work magic. So when the people ask that, where are your lifts at, where do you expect them to be? And I feel like the people who are asking that are noob lifters. They're noob lifters who honestly think your bench press goes up 20 pounds in 10 weeks, right? If you think that people's bench presses go up 20 pounds in 10 weeks, who aren't on gear, who are advanced lifters already, you're going to have a very, very disappointing future in training. Let me explain how this works. For an advanced lifter, if your bench goes up 20 pounds in a single year, like your raw bench, you're considered to be a badass. Like that's exceptional. Like if you gained 20 pounds on your bench every year, most people would be competing at the world level within a few years who are already advanced. If your squat were to go up 50 pounds every year, you'd be competing at the world level pretty quickly, wouldn't you? Okay, so perspective. People get caught up in these intermediate numbers, and they realize, well, the intermediate lifters make that all the time. Yeah, they do. They do. But I'm not. So realistically, if I were to test my bench again, and it was up more than 5 pounds, I would be surprised. If I were to test my back squat again and get back into the groove of doing it, you guys got to remember I'm trying to change my footing and stuff. If my back squat was up, 25 pounds, I would be really, really surprised. I would be very surprised. I'm inching this stuff forward. We're inching it forward. And each time we do these different variations, we just want to hit a small PR on them, at least a 5-pound PR. That's the goal. And that translates over time. to new PRs. But these sort of systems, you have to be patient, guys. It takes a long time to add significant strength. And when it comes to adding strength, when you're an advanced lifter, almost all of it, almost every bit of strength that you gain comes from your hypertrophy. Or it comes from a slight improvement in the technique on your lifts, right? Well, since I'm not even practicing on the technique hasn't improved, I would probably need a short phase of coming back in and maybe practicing those lifts again. And not everyone does that who does this system. Sometimes they just show up at comp and just do it without having done them. But in order to see significant changes in regards to the neural efficiency, I would need to practice them a bit. So any strength gains I've made on them is going to be due to hypertrophy or a little bit better explosiveness. And I haven't gained that much muscle, at least not in the last like 6 weeks or 10 weeks. So that's the reason I'm not showing it. That's the reason I'm not doing it. There's no point right now. There's no point in it. I don't think anyone would be impressed. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.